Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from HSH Nordbank New York branch and First American Title Insurance Company of New York, Perfect Building Maintenance, Greenberg Traurig LP, the Moynihan Group. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from Antares Real Estate, Arbor Realty Trust, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman and Wakefield, Fremont Investment and Loan, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Muss Development LLC, Rosenthal and Rosenthal Inc., Signature Bank, Stonehenge Partners, Swig Equities, the Engel Berman Group, the Wickoff Group, Titan Capital, YL Real Estate Developers.
Welcome to the Stoller Report. My name is Michael Stoller. Everybody loves development, and one area that's really developing today is Long Island City. Mayor Bloomberg recently called Long Island City the fourth business district of New York. There are 24 new developments, residential developments being built. Silver Cup Studios, Kaufman Astoria Studios are in Long Island City. Silver Cup Studio is going to have more places. Today, I have the guys who really know what's happening in Long Island City as my guests. Alan Suna, CEO of Silver Cup Studios. Fred Harris, Senior Vice President of Development at Avalon Bay Communities. And last but not least, because we have to take a little more commercial, John Lewis, Vice President and General Counsel of the United Nations Federal Credit Union. Alan, I think you're I don't want to say the oldest, but probably the oldest. But you know, you've been in Long Island since 1983?
Well, actually, we've been active in Long Island City since 1980. So right, I guess that makes it 27 years.
And what have you seen? What's happening today? It's really Long Island City is really growing.
Well, we've seen a lot of change, but like in many graphs, you know how it doesn't go as a straight line. It is a bit of a half of a parabolic curve, and the growth in Long Island City has accelerated in the last couple of years exponentially. Fred Harris on my right, is building apartment building after apartment building. John across from me has got a brand new office building that's up. There's another office building that is going up right across the street from him with another one, that may be going up also right behind that one. Residential, both condo and rentals, are just booming, both on the waterfront and in the Jackson Avenue Court Square area. So it's just fabulous.
It's interesting. You were the first, 1980. Harry Suna took part of his facility over there. Mm-hmm. Fred, you came there later. I mean, in two lives. Right. One before Avalon Bay. When did you get involved with Long Island City?
Well, my first involvement with Long Island City was actually in the early 80s when I was at the MTA and actually sold some of the waterfront freight yards to a group that later sold it to a group that I would let go to work for.
But that's the group I'm really trying to talk about. What was that group, and what did they do?
Well, they came
City
in,
Lights, which is one of the nicest buildings in Long Island City.
Well, they came in the late 80s with a lot of capital and a lot of vision, and really they had planned to do about 3,000 apartments, essentially the whole northern half of Queens West, and they had arrangements with various landowners and with Pepsi, and they really thought they were going to get the whole thing going. And then the early 90s were very lean times for apartment builders and very difficult to finance. And I was learning the apartment business at that time, and we ultimately decided that really we went to FHA as the only place that could give us credit enhancement that would enable us to build a building, and it was much more complicated and time-consuming than we ever imagined.
So did you build a luxury co-op or at that time? What was
we basically built a very sensible, straightforward New York apartment building
With good design.
With very good design. We used SLCE as our architect of record, and Caesar Pelli agreed to be our design architect, and that was possible in part because of the real estate recession.
So what was City Lights? How many units? How big of a development?
522 apartment homes, 527 parking spaces in an attached garage, a 25,000-foot elementary school, and about 10,000 feet of retail space.
But what was there besides this? It opened up in what, 1999?
96.
96. What was there? In 96, New York City real estate market was in the
Quiet.
proverbial
Very quiet.
crib. Okay, so what was there, and who was moving into that section of Long Island City? Because that's before the resurgence.
Right. Well, we took a very unusual financial structure. We had a very, very large, proportionately underlying mortgage, so that the apartment prices, when we first went to market, they averaged $13,000, and maintenance was relatively high since most of the.
So wait, somebody could buy an apartment in 1996 in Long Island City?
1998.
1998 for $14,000?
That's right.
Michael, just to change locations, the building that we did at 106th Street.
But that was a
and Lenox
subsidized.
Boulevard.
That was a subsidized
Well,
building.
I understand, but the most expensive apartment was $14,000.
Now, the
Okay.
maintenance in these apartments was almost as high as market rents at that time. The only real advantage was that it was mostly deductible. So, but nonetheless, it created a lot of buzz. Lots of people came there, but it was, that didn't really generate momentum because the financing had been put together for this one building. And in retrospect, had we set it up for multiple
So what happens in
phases?
2002? You leave them, and you're now with Avalon Bay Communities. Avalon Bay Communities makes a commitment to Long Island City. You now build a rental apartment building.
Well, Avalon Bay, basically after that first building was done, that developer essentially dissolved, and Avalon Bay answered an RFP for the site that we're now building for what's called Parcel 9. And there were only 3 bidders. I mean, there were only 3 bidders at that time, and one of them withdrew. So there were only 2 people even interested in a very favorable long-term ground lease to build these rental apartment buildings. And then, because of the withdrawal of my former place, the building we did first was actually Parcel 11, which had not even been on the table. But
So now Avalon Bay has one apartment house that was built, that opened in 2002, and now you're
Right.
building a second apartment house that you plan to open next year,
late this year.
late this year. And how many apartments are going to be in this new building?
The new building will have 605 apartments.
Okay. Now we go completely. The United Nations Federal Credit Union, who has their headquarters on 2nd Avenue, and most of their employees, makes a decision to go to Long Island City. Why? Why'd they go to Long Island City? I mean, 2nd Avenue, the United Nations is on 1st Avenue. What was the decision, and what was behind that, John?
Well, about 4 or 5 years ago, we set out a long-term facilities plan. Rates in Manhattan were going up, our leases were coming up, and we had to look out in the future. Fortunately, we experienced double-digit growth in our company. And we said, okay, what are we going to do long-term? I don't want to be doing this again in 5 years and 10 years. I want to basically build a home for us to expand operations. And we looked at many, many different areas. We looked at all this thing. We looked at the downtown Brooklyns and the Jersey Cities and the Westchesters and the Harlems and all this kind of stuff. And we looked at Long Island City. And when you look at the infrastructure of Long Island City, what we believed the growth was going to be, I mean, we identified this parcel 4 years ago, purchased it 3 years ago, where really nothing was going on in that one area.
Allen at a good price, too.
Yeah, at what we believe is a good price, yeah. And so we looked at Long Island City, infrastructure, we said the future, definitely there. City Corp, I mean, again, we weren't the first ones. We weren't the pioneers in the office space.
I mean, City
was
Corp went there in 1989 with a
Yeah.
Jolly Green Giant, But you built the building larger than you really needed.
Well, at this particular time, we have about 275,000 square feet. We occupy about half of it, and we're going to lease out half. And eventually, one day, we expect to grow into it.
So why don't we try to get an idea, because Allen's going to be building the next Silver Cup Studios with a large facility. What's somebody going to pay? You have Class A space. You have truly Class A space in Long Island City, and now Class A space in Manhattan, if you could get it in Midtown, in brand new, which you can't, because there's no space, would be at least $75 a square foot. Probably 90, but I have to be conservative. And what are you offering to a tenant in Long Island City?
Right now, we're out there at 42.
You're at $42 a square foot. But in reality, the 42 is not 42, right?
Could be better. I mean, if you could qualify for REIT benefits, other benefits, potentially $16 a foot. If you qualified for all the benefits, you could be in our space at $26.
So how do you qualify?
Well, time out. Before you get into the qualifications, John shared something with me before we came on the show, which I think is really very important about his asking price and what have you, which has to do with they're looking for a very specific kind of user or users, all right, which has a huge impact on price, which is ultimately they want to take over the rest of the building. So it's not they've turned away people that want to take the entire hunk that they have left, but they need to grow into it. So therefore, it changes the dynamic and the financial model of the kinds of folks that they're going after.
1 out of every 3 folks we talk to, their requirement's too big for us.
Right.
So I can't give out 125 to right now, and I certainly can't give out 200 because I don't have it.
Right.
So
But
what type of tenant are we talking about? Are we talking about a 10,000 square foot tenant, a 15,000, or 40,000?
We've entertained 20s, 40s, 80s. Depends what they're looking for. A lot of back office, but I'll tell you what's happened too is people get out there. So the execs come out. They're looking for back office. They get out there. They get up to the 15th floor. They look at this incredible view of Manhattan. They say, back office, maybe some front office too. You know, they say, and they get very interested.
You could
in that.
walk 2 blocks from his office building to what is, in my opinion, one of the best Italian restaurants in the city, the Johnny's, right on 44th Drive.
Right there. Yeah.
It is packed every single day. Okay, so the front office guys can go and have, you know, and in the nice weather, they have a nice thing in the backyard. And I'm not getting a plug, you know, for putting, you know, getting anything for putting in the plug, but it's true. And Long Island City, the infrastructure is developing.
And what
right?
are
But
you
I want to
doing?
get to your other question, which is what do you have to do to qualify for REIT benefits? Because the REIT benefits are enormous, right? You have to basically move from someplace other than Queens, okay, it's a relocation, employment, and assistance program. You get energy cost savings, you get $3,000 per employee that is either moved or new job that you're putting in as a tax credit for 15 years, if I recall.
It's a tax credit off your New York State taxes.
Oh, if New York State tax, 15 years. And there's a few other things. And frankly, I would have to believe...
And no real estate taxes, right?
There's no commercial rent tax.
Right, you have an ICIP.
We're ICIP.
Right, but there is no commercial rent tax in Long Island City, if I remember correctly, in Queens. Commercial rent tax is large. Is it an ICIP program?
It's an
It's
ICIP.
part of the,
Okay,
yeah.
so there you go. You get no commercial rent tax.
So let's look at it, what you're just saying. Lower Manhattan, which is doing great today. Lower Manhattan, you can't get space for less than $35, $40 a square foot. They have certain incentives, but not as good as in Long Island City. You can go to John's building, because most companies aren't relocating from Queens. They're relocating from Manhattan or
Correct.
Brooklyn or other places. And they're going in here, and they're able to get $26 a square foot.
Hello.
You know, or low. Or lower. And the key is, you know, you take companies, Fred, I think a good example. Avalon Bay Communities used to be on 5th Avenue. You had your office.
Right.
You relocated to 275 7th Avenue,
Avenue.
correct. Part of the reason that, I don't want to say I assume, but I will assume, is that you were saving rent.
Well, we needed more space.
You needed more space.
And we're, you know, we tend to be pretty
What's
pretty stingy on that stuff, and we wanted more space.
But in reality, this could have been an alternative of what's going on, and that's one of the big benefits. Now, Alan,
I was going to say, Mike, I mean, we're in Silver Cup Studios West. We're putting up a 650,000 square foot office building. Okay, we're not doing it on spec. We haven't gone out to the market yet. But unlike John's situation, you know, we're very happy to talk to people that are 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 square foot users. All right, we have another parcel a few blocks away. We can put up another 500,000 square feet. All right, we have a strong, long-term belief that commercial real estate and residential real estate, both rental and condo, in Long Island City is going to be very strong.
I mean,
Manhattan is Manhattan. We're not trying to replace Manhattan. We're trying to be an alternative that people can consider for a fairly big discount, whether it be rental units, condo units, or office space, where they can come to a very convenient place, be in Class A space to live, to work, to play, go to great restaurants, be on the waterfront, be in parks, and my goodness, the views are a little bit better than if you were in Manhattan.
You ought to see our views. You ought to see our views.
It's just spectacular.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing when we talk about the convenience, you kind of roll to the convenience. Literally, 2 minutes and 42 seconds on the E train from Court Square to 53rd.
I don't think you have 42 seconds. I think it's 2 minutes.
All right, I'll go with that. 7 train, 3 stops to Grand Central, under 6 minutes. I mean, that's the kind. And okay, if you were telling me it was going to take you 35 minutes to get to Midtown, I'd say, all right, maybe you don't want to spend the $42 a foot. When we're talking one subway stop,
it's
and
nothing.
the difference is $40 a foot.
And now let's go to the rental market. Avalon Bay has Avalon Bay Christie. Avalon Bay Christie is a magnificent structure on Christie Street in the Bowery, which, as Alan said prior to the show, nobody wanted to go to that neighborhood 10 years ago. Today, the rent in Avalon Bay Christie is ranging
from basically $50 to $70.
$50 to $70, so let's average it to be $60. The rent in Avalon Bay, Long Island City, is $42. $18, to me, that's like a third difference.
Right.
I mean, with better views, with restaurants, it's really, it's like people would say to me before, there was a low-cost advantage for going to Lower Manhattan. It sounds like to me that Long Island City is providing a low-cost advantage.
Well, I mean, one thing that's peculiar about the rental market, which is it's very sensitive. It responds very quickly. I mean, market rate renters, residential renters are short term. They're sort of like hot money, if you will. And basically, what happened at Bowery and Houston is that became the place everybody wanted to be. And I mean, yes, there are restaurants in Long Island City, but there are 300 restaurants within a half mile of the front door of Avalon Christie Place. I mean, there is probably no other concentration like that, even in New York City.
But Freddie, even if we took the $60 and cut it down to $55, we're still talking a 20% difference.
Well, I think you're seeing basically there's a premium on Christie that's sort of a trendiness, at the moment, right spot to be today. I think the true discount's about half that. I mean, I think that right. Probably an average site in Manhattan is 10% less than Bowery and Houston right now. And so when the true sort of cross the river discount, where you're looking at places equally convenient, is not that substantial.
And what's happening in the condo? I don't have any condo guys, but I know you're planning to build one condo, and then Silver Cup West is going to be there. What's happening in the condo market, price-wise, development-wise? What's going on in Long Island City? What do you see happening?
Well, the condo market is actually doing quite well. What's nice about Long Island City is you have a real mix of rental product that's coming out of Fred Shop and elsewhere, and you also have condos, and the condos are intermixed. By and large, right now, the condos are not on the waterfront, though I believe in one of our programs here with Henry Alganian, I think one of their buildings, is a 120-unit building, is going to be a condominium product. But most of the condos are developing inland. And right now, the average ask and get is probably around $700 a square foot. There are properties that are built on really unusual streets. There's one that's on Purvis Street, I believe, just east of the Sculpture Center, right up against the highway. They were pre-sold before anything went in the ground at just over $600 a foot. The stuff that is coming out of some of the buildings that are going up along, I think it's 10th or 11th Street and what have you, are getting anywhere from $650 to $750. The Aris Lofts on just off Jackson Avenue started at around $650 a square foot. And I know that some of their pricier units have already broken the $1,000 a square foot barrier in Long Island City. So, Long Island City has tremendous variation and opportunity. The biggest opportunity that I see at the current time are all of those sites that are south of the Queensboro Bridge. There's a little triangle that's defined by the Sunnyside Yards, the East River, and the Queensboro Bridge. That's the triangle to watch.
Is that where Tishman Speyer is planning to build their...
Tishman Speyer is on the kind of northeast corner of that for their Gotham Center project. So
do you think
right on the edge
that's
of that.
For my audience, that's a 3 million square foot...
3.5.
3.5 million square foot office complex,
On-
which they
on
would
two
have
sites.
on 2 sites that they probably would have begun already if the MTA or the Department of Transportation
State Department of Transportation.
was supposed to move in there, but didn't happen over there. I mean, what kind of did you get any resistance from any of your employees when you relocated everyone from Manhattan?
Well, there was some conversation about it. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. You can relocate 10 blocks away in Manhattan, and you're going to get resistance from employees. People are always resistant to change. There were some folks who said, they were in Central Jersey as it was, and they said, we're not going to do it. And you know what? Most of them are there. I think out of 250 employees, literally, that I know of, I think we've lost 2 who've basically said, I'm just not doing this. 2 out of
Michael, I want to
250.
take you back 15, 18 years, if that's the right number, maybe 15 years. When Saatchi and Saatchi moved down to, was it Hudson Street or thereabouts? Everybody thought they were out of their friggin' minds. Could you please tell us today, what's it like down there now? And guess what? All those leases from so many of those ad agencies, they're all coming up. And they're facing, what were the rents we were talking about before? Huge.
They'll be calling you and me.
Yeah, huge increases in rents. All right? Long Island City is a media place. We expect that a lot of those media companies, be it advertising agencies, parts of the AOL, Time Warner, Viacom, side of life, they're going to be moving. And they're going to be moving to places that really reflect the bottom line that they have to deal with. Not all of their stuff, not their headquarters, not all of that other, but big chunks, big divisions of what it is that they do will move to places like Long Island City because they will save millions, tens of millions of dollars a year. And it'll be cool.
Besides being cool, it's nice that you spoke to me about this great Italian restaurant that you have to take me to,
Okay.
which both of you
My
will take me
pleasure.
to.
They're often.
Besides that, one of the negatives that I've heard over the period of time is that Long Island City doesn't have a supermarket really. You have Costco, doesn't
ready
have
for
some
this
of the
one now.
pharmacy, doesn't have some of those other amenities that are needed to make this a 24/7 community. When do you see that happening? When do you
Within
see
the
that?
next 2 years.
Has to.
Yes. Michael, you told us earlier that you took a little tour around Long Island City just
Saturday.
the other day. And you saw tower cranes, you saw buildings going up and here and there. The marketplace is going to drive this thing.
Have you really? I mean,
There's a
just
Dwayne Reed opening up near you.
Well,
I saw that.
well, let
I
me
saw
just-
the Dwayne Reed.
let me
But
just give you-
it's like the guys in Jersey City. They tell me we have an Applebee and a Dwayne Reed.
This
Forget
isn't
that.
Jersey
but this
City.
is, let me give you 2 snapshots. I mean, the first is, I don't know if, I know you saw it. I mean, when there was a point a couple of months ago where we were putting up our precast garage, we were putting up our 38-story building. Rock Rose was putting up their garage, their building. There were these 4 tower cranes competing to build in this one space there. And I have to say, in all the years in New York, I don't think I ever saw. I mean, it almost looked Asian. It was like a boom town.
Dubai.
I mean, it was just incredible. And I think the thing about Long Island City that's different is that the other downtowns of New York, Lower Manhattan, Midtown, even downtown Brooklyn, these are downtowns that were downtowns in a very defined, very dense way prior to World War II. And basically, you've seen a modernization. I mean, you add a Metrotech or you building types change. What's interesting about Long Island City is that Long Island City doesn't have that same history, didn't have that kind of mixed use and density, and it's going to be different. And I think in the end, seems like a little bit of a weakness now because you say, where's the supermarket, where's the drugstore? But as these things come together, you're going to have a marvelous collection of buildings, newer buildings that are sort of more of what's happening. And I think it's going to end up being a part of the city that's going to, we don't know what it's going to exactly be like, but it's going to have a very different feel, and it's going to be really our first new downtown in a long time.
Fred's absolutely correct, but you also have to keep in mind Long Island City has a number of special things going for it. Aside from Silver Cup Studios and all the kind of media people that we attract, there are tremendous numbers of art galleries. I mean, went from point A to point B today. I passed 6 art galleries without even sniffing. All right? Art galleries are often the precursor to other kinds of developments that come along that people want to be near that. So you have art galleries, you have PS1, you have a whole variety of other things that are happening there. It's an interesting place. It is not just a residential community. It is not intended to be just kind of a bedroom, like a historic Queens bedroom community. This is Western Queens. This is commercial development. This is residential development. You could either live there short-term, like Fred is talking about, where the turnover rate is 50% a year or thereabouts.
Not quite that much.
Okay, well, you know, but I'm just making a point. Or people that are buying their first homes. I mean, there are projects out there where people can buy their first apartment, their one-bedroom apartment for less than $600,000.
And these rentals are the best way to, I mean, when people move into a rental, they're trying out a neighborhood. And I think you find that nothing, I mean, one of the reasons I think that for the success of the for sale apartments out there is there's hundreds and hundreds of people now who have rented there, who've been there, who said, I like this neighborhood. And I think it's a great way to, you know, I think it's really, you know, it's building in a very organic way, and it has a lot of strength and a lot of depth.
We have actors and writers that have rented in Fred's building, that work at our place, that if they are to stay in New York are going to be looking to buy things, and they like it.
Look at the convenience for them to work. You know, people like living and working together nearby. Now, what are the, you know, you've had the rental office, I hate to say, the different type of rental office, the commercial rental office. Have you seen, besides back office, have you seen companies, any accounting firms or law firms who have, you know, who have financial constraints, especially in the partners' profits, thinking of moving their headquarters there or their real office?
We've had several. We've had several come through. I mean, right now there's a lot of term sheets out on the street right now. We're very pleased with it. We did our ribbon cutting last month to really get the market primed for us, and we're excited about it. There's law firms, there's accounting firms, there's some consulting firms, some larger blocks that folks are looking at, front office, back office combination. A radio station was looking.
Now, you have this small little project. Besides the 600,000 square foot office, you have more studios. What are you doing over there? And we don't have too much time. Give me a...
But we're doing where?
Silver Cup West. What's happening over there? What are you planning?
Well, we're going to have about 350,000 square feet of more studio space and support space. Because right now,
I know you book 24 hours a day, 365
we're booked
days.
solid. We're turning work away. You know, so they are happily, I guess, it's going to some of my competitors, and they're, you know, I'm glad to see that.
There are no competitors.
You know?
Come on, there's only one Silver Cup Studios.
Okay, but business is fabulous. It's fabulous in part in the studio business, and it's a tax credit program that the state had started and the city had participated in. That has it's been a transformative piece of tax legislation that has created many thousands of jobs in the production industry, and we're benefiting from it, and New York is just busy as can be. And we're going to be putting in housing so people can live, they can work, and we're on the water, and they can play.
Eat, they can do everything.
And they can eat, and they can do all that stuff. And think about it. Use just your feet to walk to work.
Okay.
It's a wonderful thing.
It's hard to believe, but 30 minutes have gone by. And I really think that my audience today has got a pretty good perspective of the dynamic things that are happening in Long Island City. I'd like to thank my guests, one of my favorite guests who's always with me. I think he's part of the, you know, he's my replacement host, Alan Suna, CEO of Silver Cup Studios, Fred Harris, Senior Vice President Development of Avalon Bay Communities, and open next month in the Avalon Christie. We're going to have that new Whole Foods, which I'm going to go to. And the man from the United Nations Federal Credit Union, John Lewis, Vice President and General Counsel. Next week, we go to Lower Manhattan. Thank you very much.
Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from HSH Nordbank New York branch and First American Title Insurance Company of New York, Perfect Building Maintenance, Greenberg Traurig LP, the Moynihan Group. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from Antares Real Estate, Arbor Realty Trust, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Fremont Investment and Loan, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Muss Development LLC, Rosenthal and Rosenthal Inc., Signature Bank, Stonehenge Partners, Swig Equities, the Engel Berman Group, the Wickoff Group, Titan Capital, YL Real Estate Developers.